Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. Apologies. I'm still learning the technology. When you go live, you actually have to press the button that says go live. So let me back up. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's been a part of the show, making comments, giving shout outs. This is your first time coming to the show, I appreciate you spending your time with us. If you have been a part of the shout out crew, I'm officially going to name you the shout out crew. I just want to say thank you for spending your time and supporting this project. Today's topic is a really interesting topic. Before I even get into that, I want to thank a few people who've been supporting me, particularly my family, because this takes a little bit to get everything up and going. But that said, I want to thank really people have helped me with the show, inspired me. Owen Smith, little brother Owen Smith out in California. Be safe out there. And Ahmed Khatib out in California. Thank you too, brother. I appreciate you. Plus, all the love and support I've gotten from people who have not only tuned into the show, but suggested the show to other people. This show is a little bit different. We're still going to try and stay within the time frame that we normally do, that 22 to 25 minutes. I don't want to take up that much part of your day, particularly for those who are fasting. However, this is a topic that I thought had bared out some importance, and I thought it needed some space. It needs some proper breathing. A lot of times, folks don't really talk about this topic, but I found it interesting and very intriguing, particularly in the space that we find ourselves in with COVID-19. Now, many of you don't know this, some of you do know this, but my job before being a comedian full time was that I was a school teacher. I taught severely emotionally disturbed children. One of the things that we dealt with in that classroom, these are kids who are about maybe fourth, fifth grade, fifth or sixth, had gone through the system and they were in special ed. I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so they called it exceptional education, not special ed. That's a whole nother story. But generally, you were dealing with kids that had gone through the system and found themselves almost at a last resort in the public school system, but not really a part of the public school system. They were in special ed classrooms, separated away from the population. The desks were different. All of that type of stuff was different. And the thing that I found working with these children was that there was a high quotient of children dealing with. These are children, not adults. Assalamu alaikum, Layla. These are children dealing with high levels of failure at a very young age. What I found that I wasn't being effective speaking to the children because I was just throwing on top of layers and layers and layers of anxiety that had come from the scope of failure. So I found someone who worked with me that actually understood the idea of speaking to kids about failure. Brother Zay, thank you for coming back. So today, I thought it was really important because way back in 1992, I was talking to kids about failure. But you know the thing about kids? They grow up. They grow up from failure. And we become adults, and sometimes we still have the same anxiety about failure. So I thought today would be a great idea to talk about our subject matter, if you will, which is the philosophical importance of failure. I told my students back in the day that failure was important. They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's important because it's a part of a process. You can't learn without failing. Nobody ever learns without failing. That's a misnomer. People fail." What has become important about the philosophy of failure is that it frames creativity, it frames agency, and it also frames what your narrative is as you interact and deal with the rest of the world moving forward. Failure is one of the most solitary things that you can have, but it's hard to share with people. It's one of the most solitary things you can have, but you can share with people. And I'm going to break down failure this way for those that are listening. Let me tell you that I, Preacher Moss, have had some epic failures. Epic, with a capital Ep. Epic failures. Some of them have been heart wrenching. Some of them have been funny. I look back in the years, they're very funny. Epic. However, there was a switch in mentality in terms of how I address failure as I got older. I framed it in the narrative of being a creative, meaning Failure gives me an opportunity to look at certain aspects of things that I've taken for granted, number one, or number two, haven't thoroughly investigated. And taking an idea and a model about failure and turning it around and making it something creative can be one of the most powerful and liberating things that you can ever do. The idea is that we frame failure in a narrative that makes us comfortable. I say frame failure in a narrative that doesn't make you comfortable, but makes you inspired. Let me give you an example. We've all been to school. Some of us got good grades. Some of us did not get good grades. But think about this. The grading system. The grading system. If you get out of a test that's 100 points, you get 97 points. Most people are happy. That's a passing grade. That's a passing grade. But it's a failing grade at the same time. If the point of efficiency is 100% and you got a 97, then you're 3 points off of that functionality right there. And we make those levels. The thing that's interesting, and I've been reading this book, I have to give it to you. It was really interesting to me because failure follows a certain type of economics. Like for African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, we're talking about minority people, underrepresented, overlooked. The narrative for us has been working through failure. Working through failure. And the ironic thing is, failure for many of us has always been coupled with having to work with someone else to be considered successful. I'll give you a prime example. I was a young comedian. I was working at this club. I was on the way up. I've been at this club for a bunch of years. I saw people get promoted quicker than I was. They did less work. They weren't as professional. They got the work. They got paid more than I did. And I was stuck in this mode about the example that was in front of me. And I actually went to the owner and I asked him, what is the deal? And he told me, well, I'll determine when I think you're successful. What he was saying was, I'm going to determine your value. I'm going to determine your value. And brothers and sisters, when you turn that over to someone else to determine your value, you are on the road to failure. Because people don't understand. People will fail you without seeing you. People will fail you without hearing you out. People will frame the idea of failure if you're not thinking, and they'll tie it into this whole idea that it needs their approval for you to be successful. But here's the deal. If I get a B and I don't get an A, am I a failure? If I get a C and I don't get an A, am I a failure? Better question. If I get a D but I understand the information, maybe I failed in of course, the test part of it, the recall part of it. But if I can go out and apply the information that I study, am I a failure? And the answer is no to all of the above. No to all of the above. A deep personal story. Someone asked a couple of years. I always tell the story. It's about failure. Several years ago, many years ago when I lived in California, I got what is the big interview for a comedian with Brillstein Grader, the biggest management company in town. All the big acts there. They represented the Sopranos. All the big shows back then. And I got an interview with a guy named Jeff Chetty. And Jeff Chetty represented a friend of mine who was on Saturday Night Live. My friend talked me up to Jeff Chetty. I walked in. I'm feeling like this is it. This is the meeting that's going to change my life. I sat down to meet this guy, and we're having people, I'm talking picture perfect. We're talking about shows I'm going to work on. There was a show called The Best Damn Sports Show. I think it was on Fox or something. He was talking about me being a producer on that. Look, they were talking about paying me $15,000 a week. You don't get money like that. I was like, it's 4 weeks in a month, right? Okay, but that's my point. We're having a great interview. The guy asked me something about, it was a core value thing. He said, basically, I heard some good things about you. Your sketches look great. A lot of compliments. The guy goes, listen, let me ask you this question. He goes, you're a Muslim. I said, yes, sir. He goes, so what does that mean? So I give him, standard pamphlet type deal. He goes, okay, that's great. He goes, well, let me ask you this question. He goes, if a situation came along where you had to compromise some of your religious beliefs so we can make this money, would that be a problem? I said, excuse me? He said, if there was a situation where we could make a bunch of money, but you got to tweak some things about what you believe and stuff like that, would that be a problem? And me, I looked at him, I said, absolutely, it'd be a problem. I said, because this is what I believe. He said, what do you mean? I said, no, if we can make money and I can keep my core values intact, we're going to be all right. The guy looked at me and said, Mr. Moss, thank you. I said, huh? He says, thank you for coming. That was the end of the interview. My dream interview lasted less than 12 minutes, people. And you know your meeting has gone badly when they don't have to validate your parking. They didn't have to validate your boys' parking. And I sat in my car and I looked at myself. I said, what I did? And I took it and I internalized it for a bunch of years. I said, man, you messed up. You blew your opportunity. You failed. And then years later, I said, I didn't fail. I didn't fail. This person sized me up and he put me in a box and he said, given this situation, this guy is going to fail to do what I need him to do. You see, the importance of failure is all something that we don't talk about. The importance of failure is checking your core values. It is the tweak. You know, sometimes it's small failures is big failures, but sometimes having an open mind, speaking to the fact that, you know what, I'm not perfect in this situation. There are things I need to work at. Acknowledging failure before performance is one of the most beautiful things in the world. I often have to come on here and explain to people, hey man, I made a mistake on the broadcast. I didn't press the button. I'm just being real with you. I'm not telling you my business. I'm like, I made a mistake. But sometimes making a mistake is not failure, it's process. So let me say here, the most important philosophical aspect of failure is understanding your process. If you're getting it from other people, you're not getting an organic understanding of yourself. You know, when your parents will stay on you, like, why is my mom on my back? Why is my dad on my back or grandma's on my back? You know why? Because they can see your shortcomings, and that's out of concern in most cases. They don't want it to be something that bothers you later, that hurts you later. Think about some of the things or replay some of the things that your parents said, like, don't hang out with that boy. Don't hang out with so-and-so. I don't know his people. And it seems old school and real country. But it was genius. It was genius. Because if you listen and think about some of our quote unquote pioneers, our old school people, they came from a situation where society failed them constantly and they still found a way to be successful. Marinate on that a minute. America didn't even let black folk vote. You still found a way to express yourself and hold on to agency that you can take now and pass it on to your children. I have to back up off of that because it's deep. It's really deep. Because now we've taken failure and we've internalized it. We haven't figured out ways on a consistent way to strategize it. I think of the meeting that I had with Mr. Jeff Chetty. I hope you see this thing. I'm calling you out, Jeff Chetty. But had I gone through that pace and I said, hey, you know what? I don't mind compromising my views. I would have had a hard time living with myself because I knew at some point in time, I was going to fail. It was going to be ugly and I was going to feel badly about myself. And as a Muslim, I have to look at it and say, you know, alhamdulillah, because in that situation, I look at where I am now. The family I have, the friends I have, the opportunities I have. I may have never come back to the Muslim community just out of that situation because of failure or how somebody else perceived me. Now, think about this, man. I'm loving this. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm loving this piece because we're wrapped up in a mind. You know, failure now is tied into economics, numbers, tangible things. You know, I failed at times, but it didn't mean I wasn't successful. It means I didn't fully complete something. If you think about it, there's some exams out there that you're taking parts. It may be 3 parts to exam. You pass one part, you fail the other 2. They allow you to come back and take the other 2. If it was a complete failure, then you have to take all 3. Listen and think through some of the things that folks are telling you and analyze it. Failure is the home space for critical thinking. Think about that. Failure is a home space for critical thinking. I like when I fail at times because it inspires me. It's very introspective. It's more valuable in some regards than success. Because when you succeed, everybody's around you. When you fail, or in other people's mind, you fail them, then you don't have value. Whew. I'd say that again. When you fail around other people, some folks think that you don't have value. Has that ever happened before? You doggone right. Happens all the time. I'm bringing it up, you know why? Because we're in a space called COVID-19 and people don't know what to do. We're looking at government, we're looking at doctors, we're trying to assign blame because people don't know what to do. You know, the failure is not our health. That could be part of it. Our failure is not our health. A failure is the fact of the matter that we have stopped talking to one another about aspects of how we perform, how we don't perform, our abilities, our ability to come together as a community. I mean, look at the disparity. I look at the politicians and I look at the people that the politicians are supposed to be doing. It's two different norms. You know, there are a group of people that say, you know what? Coronavirus is not a pass or fail thing. It's an engagement thing. How are we going to deal with it? Coronavirus is not giving you a grade. It's giving you an opportunity. So I want to take a little break. If you guys don't mind, I've gone a little bit longer than I normally do in my opening space. You know what? Scratch it. I'm not even going to do a commercial today because I think it's important that we deal with this. I'm talking about as thinking people, as creative people, as critical thinkers, and also the people that, you know, we have to take ownership of our brand in terms of how we think, how we educate our children, how we deal with politicians, how we pursue religion, religious study, how we look at economic intervention, economic engagement. Because I believe engagement is one of the biggest things that we're not doing at this point in time because we're looking for people to give us space, to give us, I don't know, encouragement, to give us approval. It doesn't. You know what you know what you never need? You never need approval to fail. You never need approval to fail. But you need approval for success. Somebody has to rubber stamp that. But you never need approval for failure. So I want to take a couple minutes. I see some people in the queue. I'm getting some quick shout outs because, man, I'm sorry. I got caught on this whole thing and we're riding up on like 19 minutes right now. You know, I try to keep the show short so everybody can get back to their lives and everything. I want to give a shout out to Sister Linda Muhammad, Layla Muhammad, Amani Shabazz, Ashura, Madia, Kathina, Horani. Thank you, Kathina. Thank you for coming out. I hope you gave my salam to your husband as well. That's real important. In fact, I put you up on the board. There you go. Oh, we got to get your picture there. Oh, who's that little one? Oh, I love that. Sister Ashura. There you go. This is my homeboy right here, Leon Alexander. Now, Leon is a prime example of framing failure for success. I mean, this guy he's a world-class musician. And when I say world-class, I mean, he played in the U.S. Navy Jazz Band. He was like the leader of that group. And it was interesting that every time a bump in the road came, like he's a musician. Musicians have a high threshold for failure. They do, I swear to gosh. I told you that Herbie Hancock story a couple days ago about Herbie Hancock and Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock playing that wrong note. I think Leon would actually he would love that story. But it's just the fact. It's you know, failure is almost like a Thelonious Monk song. Thelonious Monk said one of the deepest things I ever saw, man. He wrote it, and it almost sounded like music. The guy said basically, in music, he says, there are no right or wrong notes, just better decisions. Earth, thank you for coming, brother. Big Doug, thank you, brother. Think about that. There are no right or wrong notes, just better decisions. What if we frame failure like that? Without the judgmental, with being judgmental, without looking to assign blame, without attaching to people's character, and sometimes overlooking the fact that people, even when they fail, some of the hardest failures come from some of the people that have worked the hardest. It just didn't happen. I myself, over the last couple of years, have really taken to this because I've seen it be an issue with teaching children. Because children are now acting out because they don't understand what it is to fail. They don't understand that failure it's not the end of the world, but it's an opportunity to reframe what you did. I won't say that it's a do-over, it's a mulligan or something, but in many regards it is, because we have an opportunity to step to the side, and it's not final. I think we need to get out of that space where we think something is final. Like if somebody doesn't agree with you, or you don't get a job, or a relationship doesn't work out, it doesn't mean failure. It just means that the process wasn't there for you to be successful at that point in time. Think of Herbie Hancock playing that wrong note. One note. He played one wrong note during a Miles Davis song. He thought he ruined the whole night for everybody. One note. Miles Davis didn't even look at the guy. He played something on his horn. He corrected what was wrong and he made it right. And why can't we be in that space where we're in a spot where we look at a situation and say, wait a minute, it's not wrong. This isn't failure. This was just unexpected. So it's not a period. It's a comma. Giving myself pause to enjoy, in some regards, rebound from the failure, but in some regards, internalize it in a healthy way. So today, I want you to think about things you didn't do well. Some things where you failed. Might have been the job, might have been a relationship, maybe we didn't plan for this, money, whatever. But don't look at it as a judgment. Don't look at it as a period. Look at it as a comma. What happens, or what can I do to make sure this situation doesn't repeat itself? Or even more, what can I do that when it comes, I'm prepared? Who wants to be Herbie Hancock? Better yet, who wants to be Miles Davis? Better yet, who wants to be Thelonious Monk? There are no wrong notes, just better decisions. Think about that. Because I'm telling you, the world would be a much different place if we can take this whole idea of failure and make it disappear and make it something else. Take the concept, take the idea. In some regards, take the L. The loss, for some people don't know. Take the L, but don't keep it an L. Take the L for loss and turn it into learning. Turning into liberating your mind, lifting your spirit. The L is just an L. You can change the rest of it. So listen, I hate to say, my mom kills me on that. But I'm really in a good place talking about this. And I feel like we all need to be in a better place. We have opportunities. My idea of failure is the gratitude to be able to do something else, to fix it. Yesterday, I talked about a man who I found was fasting, but he was eating out of a garbage can. I didn't know he was Muslim, and I treated him badly. And it hurt me. I always carry that as a personal L. But my mother said, that guy was sent as a reminder for you to check your core values and your behavior. And it's carried through to this very moment. So people, I would like for you, I'm going to go a couple extra minutes. If you have somebody that you want to shout out, could you please shout out a little bit? Or do I need to shout out? My brother, Johnny L. Thomas, is on here. Doug, love you, man. Thank you for coming. Leon, thank you. Please give Big Leon. His father was my music teacher. He had a lot of patience because I was horrible. I'll give Big Leon a call. Does anyone else have a shout out? And let me explain something too. People, please don't get upset with me. Part of this platform, I'm not able to see everything because there's several platforms. So in advance, if you give a shout out and I don't get back to you, please forgive me. Understand that this shout out thing is coming from a good place. And like I told you yesterday, you should be able to shout out people without coming out on a shout out show. Call them, pick up the phone, give them a shout out, let them know you love them, you respect them, you appreciate them, because this is all this is about. And guess what that is? Taking that L I told you about from failure. You're going to take the L from loss to love. Listen, you guys have been great. I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting me on this platform. It means a lot to me. And hopefully it means something to you and we can be able to grow value. I see people coming back. I appreciate all you people that are coming back. I'm giving you a gift for Ramadan. I don't care what it is. Doug, you already have it. But I'm giving everybody else here a gift for Ramadan because I just appreciate your support. Listen, as we move forward. Oh, wait a minute. Sister Sure, shout out to my sister, Monique Wilson. I'm going to put it on the board. I got it right there. There you go, Sister Sure. And make sure I shout it out. When you give her a call, let her know that you love her, okay? Appreciate you. If anybody else has a shout out, listen, I have actually some shout outs from yesterday I didn't get to do. I'm going to do it right now. So we have shout outs from Imam Ahmed Lamti, from Matt DeBray, Imam Jahari, and Imam Siraj Wahaj, Sister Amila. I yelled out somebody. In any event, listen, I'm over time now. You guys have me doing shout outs and now I'm late. But anyway, take this L, not from failure, but from love. Appreciate you. My name is Preacher Moss. God bless. Hope to see you tomorrow. Until then, don't have a great day. Have a great day on purpose and with purpose. Take care now.